What's up guys, it's Zertic here, and today we're going to be talking about Elden Ring Nightreign, my first win on the boss and how I was able to do it, and the things that I learned so that maybe it can help a couple of you guys out. The very first thing that I have to mention is the churches and increasing their number of flasks. So this is one of the most important things that you're going to encounter when it comes to Elden Ring Nightreign, and that's going to be finding these little churches that are going to be scattered across the map, and you're going to be able to improve the amount of flasks that you can get. The most that I've been able to get is 7 in one game, but I've heard people that have 8. 8 is the most that I've heard, but if you can have this many flasks, it will be a huge advantage come the boss fight, because sometimes it can drag on for a long time, but having more flasks is never going to be a bad thing. So when you first spawn in, you're going to just want to open your map and you're going to look for this little church right here. If it's glowing, that means you haven't been there. If it's gray, that means that you already visited and gotten the flask. Now, the next thing that I learned is that many of the locations in the game actually have a specific ailment aligned with them. Now, this ailment is going to change every game, but the first boss is weak to holy. So if you can find locations that have holy ailments at them, you'll be likely to get a holy weapon of some sort. Might not necessarily be the weapon of your character's preferred, but it will be a weapon of some sort that has a holy ailment that will help you tremendously when it comes to the boss. I mean, really paying attention to the type of ailment that the boss uses, or that the boss is weak to, is going to be extremely helpful when it comes to defeating this boss. And the way to see that is actually just a little icon of an ailment next to the boss when you're going to hunt it, and it also has like a bit of a hint into the boss's description as well when it comes to the types of ailments you need to use. When it comes to the first boss, that ailment is holy. Much of my gameplay when it came to my first win and a lot of the expeditions that I did leading up to the first win was really just cycling through as many locations as I possibly could before the first night, and then you and your team go fight the first night boss, and then the second night is when a lot of the real work comes into play. The next thing I found is that when you're fighting the boss, it is extremely important to use everything that you have at your disposal. You're not keeping anything when you win. When you lose, nothing. You don't keep anything at all. Now, you gain relics for winning and losing, and you get a better relic for winning as well, but you don't keep any of the items that you have. That being said, you should really make sure you're using everything that you have at your disposal, because every little bit is going to help. The next thing I found to be extremely helpful was stone sword keys. So stone sword keys allow you to spawn a boss fight, and this boss fight is going to almost always give you runes. I've never once done a boss fight at these stone sword key locations where you didn't get at least 10,000 runes. Now this is going to be huge because, as you know, runes are how you level up, and 10,000 runes can be a pretty significant chunk or even an entire level if you're at lower levels. So this is something that you should really pay attention to because it's going to help you out a lot, and it's going to give you a lot more runes, and this, I suspect, is a pretty good way to level up. Another thing that I can recommend is making sure that you have some type of ranged weapon when it comes to doing the boss fight. Now, it's not necessarily something that is required. You won't lose if you don't have a ranged weapon, but it's really good to be able to have a ranged weapon and still be able to do just some sort of ticking damage to the boss while it's aggroed on someone else. Or even this can help you grab aggro and really keep the boss in a situation where it's not solely attacking one person for a long time. This aggro is really going to help you manage the boss, allow people to have time to heal, and things like that. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that, if possible, you have some sort of ranged weapon to just help you with that, because it's going to allow you to do essentially consistent damage. While not a lot, it'll be more than 0. The next thing I recommend is making sure you're visiting sites of grace. I can't tell you how many times I've been in an expedition and it's time to go fight the first night boss, and I haven't been to a grace in a long time, and I've got 30k some runes just sitting in my inventory and nothing to do with them because there's no grace on the way, and then getting to it would hinder my character's health. There's a lot of reasons why you can't get to graces when it comes to fighting the first night boss, and while it's not necessarily a big deal, it helps a lot to gain those levels when you're actually fighting. Caves are extremely valuable when it comes to Elden Ring Nightreign. That reason being is because many caves, if not all, have a boss in them. Now this boss doesn't even have an official health bar, it just has a normal one, but the boss is going to drop a smithing stone, a somber smithing stone at that. So the somber smithing stone is what you use to upgrade your weapon from blue rarity to purple. This is going to be extremely valuable. It's going to upgrade your weapon a lot. And on top of being able to find a somber smithing stone in these caves, many of these caves also have loot that involves a normal smithing stone. So you can take a weapon from gray to purple in just one cave. This is going to be extremely valuable because it's going to give you a lot more damage with whatever weapon that you're using. And it's something that I highly recommend. If you're not hitting caves when you're doing these things, you should at the very least already have purple weapons. So if you're doing an Elden Ring Nightreign run and you don't have purple weapons, you have to run a cave because it's the easiest way to guarantee yourself a purple weapon. One of the best things I could recommend is knowing your strength. Knowing how much damage you'll actually be able to do to a boss at what stage. If you find a random boss just kind of roaming around that's not marked on your map, you probably shouldn't fight it. Now, this isn't necessarily the end-all be-all when it comes to advice like this. It is a fight that you can take, but after the first night, you will actually have these bosses marked. When these bosses are marked, you have a better chance at defeating them. Now, that's not necessarily what the marker means, but it's almost indicated because of you being in your second night and being much more powerful after defeating a number of other bosses, because these bosses are going to be more powerful. These are going to be great enemies. Great enemies are going to be much more difficult to defeat, and they can and will wipe out your entire team and take you all down an entire level. Losing a level is a major loss in progress, and it's really not one that you can get back, because no matter how many runes you make in a certain amount of time, there is a timer. So you will be losing runes no matter what if you die to a boss. You can try to earn them back and move as fast as you can, but you're never going to get those runes back, and it's super important to know your strength and know if you're going to be able to take a fight. Another important aspect of that is taking too long on a fight. Even if you guys are equipped to defeat this boss, if you guys are all low level, even if you're confident, it may just take a long time to do it. You don't want to waste too much time on one boss, especially when it's only the first night. You should really be gathering runes in any way that you can. And going to locations on the map that have ailments on them, these are usually pretty easy to defeat. I would recommend waiting for the second night to defeat any sort of great enemy. The last major tip that I was able to find is using the jump pads. Now, I'm not sure what the official name of them is, but they're these huge wells of magical energy that allow your character to jump extremely high. Jumping really high allows you to move across the map in a much better manner because the map can be very vertical and mountainous. So moving across the map can be difficult and can take a little bit of time if you don't use these. So figuring out where these are and mapping it out for your run can save you a ton of time when trying to do something, especially when trying to outrun the storm. Lastly, another important tip that I was able to figure out is that every single weapon that you have in your inventory, all of the passive abilities count towards your character even if you don't have them equipped. Now, there are a couple exceptions. There are some weapons that at the bottom of the description, they will have a little red hand. This red hand means that in order for the passive ability to happen, you actually have to have the weapon equipped. But in most cases that I've found, many of the weapons don't actually need to be equipped. Most of them you can just have in your inventory and they will give you that passive effect. So even if it's a weapon that you have no plan of ever using throughout your run, it may have a really beneficial passive effect that can change the way that you play the game and really help you. That's going to do it for my commentary on this video and the tips and tricks that I was able to provide. Hopefully you guys were able to learn something from this, and hopefully I'm able to help some of you guys get your first boss defeat. Good luck hunting out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.